Welcome back, bass anglers. What are you going to do until you can get your hands on the unavailable Mooch minnow for bass fishing? They've been successful in a couple of tournaments, but I'm going to turn back the clock on you and give you a bait that you can use, and it might even be better than the new Mooch minnow you're waiting for. So my original bait is a pintail style bait, and those are dominating the scene right now. Those pintail style lures are now all the rage for shaking on a small jig. So I'm bringing up a image of the Mooch minnow on the screen right now, and I'll bring up an image of the Reins Bubbling Shaker on the screen and show you what they have in common. And the main thing that they have in common is they got a general minnow shape, but they both have a pin tail or a thin tail on it that's going to impart a ton of action if you shake it. It will roll or it will shake, it will vibrate. Just a ton of motion imparted by not a lot of action on that bait to really coax those fish into striking. And my Reins Bubbling Shaker comes in, the reason I like it, well, number one, the Mooch minnow is not even available. You know, who knows what they did. They probably are planning on that frenzy, you know, especially after a couple of successful tournament wins that have been bait related. You know, when that thing comes out, it's going to be hard to get. So one thing you can look at if you can't get it is the Reins. And the Bubbling Shaker, although it came out as a worm and they noted it as a finesse worm that adds a new concept rarely seen in the United States, they say on their website, but this was a while back, and that's that unique bubble pintail. And it's got the shape where it's got the body, right? It's got the normal body, then it narrows down, and then there's a bulbous part on the back, and then there's a pintail on it. And that pintail is almost impossible to keep that thing still. I'm just rolling it in my fingers here, and it's moving all over the place. It is just a fantastic shaking style bait, and people have drop shotted it. I've got the small one here. I think this is 2 3/4. They make a 3-inch, they make a 3.5, they make a 4, they make a 5. So they make a bunch of sizes. It's got the ribs, it's got the pintail, it's got a movement-oriented tail, and it's got heavily salted and shrimp scented. So it's got a lot of good things going for it. And you could easily stick this thing on a reaction tackle tungsten jig, and there's a number of sizes in Reaction Tackle's portfolio to allow for the different sizes of Bubbling Shaker. And you could match up the size for the size of the minnows. If you watched any of those previous events where the winner was using the Mooch minnow or a shaker style bait, shaker style minnow, you'll notice that there were times in the footage when they were getting short bit, and a lot of times that they were trying to put that big Crush City freeloader in their face, too big. In that second tournament, it was just the bait in that lake was not that big, so it wasn't as successful. So they had to go downsize to the Mooch minnow. Well, that's the benefit of the Reins bait, is there's 4 different sizes, and you can go all the way down to the 3-inch size and get a really lifelike representation of that minnow size, that forage size, the young of the year forage in the lake. And it's got some other things going for it, the scent and the salt. And you're using the same bait through a range of sizes. So if you're successfully getting bit on a size, the bite slows down, you can downsize and be giving it the same presentation instead of having to switch lures. And maybe you won't have as many issues getting short struck. You might have to think about downsizing your line as well as you downsize into the 3-inch as well. And the other factors with the wind and wave action and the depth come into play. But you can make adjustments. The point of it is Bubbling Shaker's got a bunch of different sizes of the same bait. They were the OG pintail. It came from Japan. It is highly effective for more than just drop shotting. You can put this thing on a jig and shake it like a minnow and be just as successful. So if you can't get your hands on the Mooch minnow to try that out, fear not. The OG shaker is still out there and available at Reins. I've used it. It's a great bait. Paul Mueller was tremendously successful with it, using it in a moping style for a cold water bass tournament. One of his big wins came using the Reins Bubbling Shaker. But don't be afraid to pull this thing out and try it in this situation, especially if supplies are low, because that Mooch minnow is going to sell out fast because of the popularity, because of the timely wins that the team got for the Rapala Crush City folks ahead of you know, putting that thing out on the market. So, can't get the Mooch minnow? Get yourself a bubbling shaker. Try that same technique. I guarantee you're going to catch the same fish the same way. Hope that tip was helpful. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.